Welcome back to Are We There Yet with me, Kathryn Thomas. Can I just say once again, thank you so much for all your lovely comments on the series so far. Today, I am having a chat with somebody that I actually went to school with, former Taoiseach, leader of the country, Leo Varadkar. So I wanted our conversation to go beyond just politics and headlines and controversies and really talk to him about our school days, what it was like leading the country through Brexit and through COVID, and then what it was like handing back the big job. And he really opened up about his coming out journey, about his relationship with politics now, and his big decision to step back from the role of Taoiseach. We also discussed navigating life in the public eye, which I know he's very uncomfortable with, as well as the world of reality TV, which he stepped into, and pop star rankings as well. Just to tell you as well, by the way, next week I'm going to be joined by the hilarious, the inspiring comedian Alison Spittle before we take a little break for Christmas. But right now, sit back and enjoy my chat with Leo. Leo, it is so great to have you in the Are We There Yet studio. We are school buddies going back. How long now? How long are we out of school?
We're class of 97.
97.
So it was like a different century.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like when you think about it.
One of the things I used to do when I was in politics, you'd visit a lot of schools.
Yeah.
And I remember going to school and the kids started talking about the photographs of all the people from the 1900s. That's us.
That is us. Oh God. King's Hospital. It was a private school. You got a bit of stick over the years for going to being the private schoolboy in a way that maybe I didn't. Did you enjoy school? Did you like it?
I did. I enjoyed.
Or am I putting words in your mouth? Did you get stick for being the private schoolboy?
Yeah, a bit. Like that's the politics. People try to characterize you in a certain way.
Yeah.
In order to make it out that you can't understand other people. So it's a common technique in politics. You're a woman, how can you understand men? You're men, how can you understand women? You're Protestant, how could you possibly understand Catholic? So it's one of the kind of class biases that people introduce. Okay. If you went to a fee charging school and therefore you can't understand ordinary people. So it's a technique that people use. That's one the left use in particular, but the right do it as well. Which is, of course, totally unfair because I only went to King's Hospital. My parents sent me there. Like, it's not that 13-year-olds have agency, And I decided I was going to do this. But
what I always loved about the school was, I only landed in second year because I got turfed out of the convent in Carlow.
I'd forgotten that because I was like, that was 2K. So I remember you arriving.
What do you remember about me arriving?
Very bubbly, friendly young woman, girl. Probably 14 or 15.
Yeah.
You were instantly popular, which I was a little bit jealous of because I wasn't one of the popular kids, but screw that.
Well, you were, I always thought you were, I would have said you were obviously very intellectual. You were quite, you kind of kept to your tight, you had your own quite tight circle of friends.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
You were slightly nerdy, but always lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Always lovely. So 2K, that was the name of our class. And then you went 3K, 4K, 5K. Is that how it went?
Yep.
Okay, so you remember me arriving. What else do you remember about me? I'm like, tell me more.
And it was a weird thing because we weren't streamed. We were divided by alphabet.
Yes, we were in the same class, not because of our academic capabilities.
Because you're Thomas and I'm Varadkar, so we were at the tail end of the alphabet.
Yeah, so we were in the same class for 5 years then. And and I have to say I loved school. I did, like the convent. I was turfed out of. I was in a school called St. Leo's in Carlow, and myself and the nuns just didn't see eye to eye. So my brother was already a year ahead of me in boarding school, and so eventually I was sent, and I loved it. Like, what are your?
Did you like boarding when you were 14? Though I would have thought
I loved it.
That would have been kind of hard.
No, I loved it because it just gave me a real sense of independence, I think, and. Even though the boundaries never suited me, because I was always I was a good student, but I was always sort of getting into trouble in terms of I always was trying to push the boundaries. So people telling me that I needed to be within the confines of the walls, and the confines of the dorms, for me was an open invitation to sort of push those boundaries, I think, But in terms of living in a room with 10 other women, I loved
10, yeah. So everywhere now is, I think most of the schools now, it's kind of 2 to a room.
Okay, yeah, I was one of 10, so there was 10 beds in the room, and you had a little bed, and you had your little locker.
Like the military, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was just brilliant, because what it taught me was, and what I loved about that school was that there was everybody in it. So when people said, geez, it was a real posh boarding school or a posh school, like we had the Sultan of Brunei, but we had everybody in between. We had like kids, farming kids who were on grants. I just thought there was a real great mix of people in it.
More so than people would think. Yeah,
yes.
And like there were a lot of, like there were the kind of the foreign students who might have been from very wealthy backgrounds, but there were a lot of people who were just there on scholarships, or they were, Church of Ireland kids from down the country or whatever, and there wasn't a local Protestant school or whatever. Yeah.
What did you make of school? Did you like it?
I did like it, in the sense that, like I said, I was kind of academic and a bit nerdy, so I liked studying. I liked learning things, still do. Even liked exams on occasion, but like I think I enjoyed college a lot more. Yeah. A lot more freedom, maybe a lot more people interested in the same things as me.
Yeah. So do you feel you found your tribe in
like
college?
Much more so, yeah.
Yeah.
And a bit like you, I was never particularly conformist, so I didn't really like uniforms and rules and having to be at assembly at a certain time or chapel at a certain time. And in college, you can turn up for as many lectures as you want to, really.
Yeah.
And, so long as you meet the various minimum criteria. So that meant a lot more fun, a lot more freedom, getting involved in societies and debating and, politics, all those different things.
Yeah.
So like I really enjoyed that time. And then also, lucky enough to get into Trinity. So I was in the city centre, and all of a sudden, instead of being in a school campus on the outskirts of Dublin, you're in the middle of town.
You're in the thick of it.
Yeah, and I really like that. I haven't strayed far from there since.
Yeah. So when you went to Trinity, because you'd always had an interest in politics. You were always very good at debating. I remember doing a couple of debating bits with you, not very many, but we'd go to different schools. I was on the debating team for a very short time. And you were always so great with words. You were always so great in that space as well. But your dad is a doctor. So was it politics or medicine early on that was your passion?
I was really interested in politics from a very young age. I'm not entirely sure why. My memoir kind of starts off with me walking down to the polling station with my mum when I was 7 or 8 years old. So, it goes back that far. Medicine was much more the kind of family business. Sister's a doctor, other sister's a midwife. So mum's a nurse. So very much the kind of family business, which is probably why I ended up doing it. I wouldn't have thought that at the time, but looking back now, I probably did. But then politics is a very different thing. You don't really study politics and then become a politician. Like, politics is made up of people from all sorts of walks of life. So I would never have considered studying politics.
You wouldn't
as
have done politics and economics or anything like that.
No, I never would have thought of that. If I was doing something else, it might have been law or might have been economics or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, weirdly, I now teach politics, but I never actually studied. I did it.
So, because you did law and then you switched from law to medicine very quickly.
Yeah.
And then just got very into the societies then in Trinity where you were able to, because when did you first start campaigning with Fine Gael?
Pretty much then. So I can't remember what elections or referendums were happening, but pretty much from then onwards. Yeah. And I ran for election for the first time when I was still in college.
Yes.
Which is a really stupid thing to do. And didn't get elected. But, you learn more from your failures than from your victories, I think.
Because my godchild is studying medicine in Trinity at the moment, and stress and the pressure and between her hospital internships and having to be in Tala and be in Crumlin and being all over the place. So you were in the thick of that. And then trying to run a political campaign as well, like mental. Yeah,
I did fail all my exams that year. So,
right.
So managed to not get elected and also fail all my exams, all in the one summer, but managed to get them on the supplementary, so I didn't miss a year or anything like that.
What I thought was really interesting in the book was you were very honest about that campaign, about putting up the posters, and putting up all the election posters around Blanchardstown and wherever else, and then going around with your ladder then and having to take them all down again, and
that's the shit part where, taking down the posters when you've won is fine, but when, you've got kind of the walk of shame for a whole week afterwards.
Bring us through
take the posters down.
Bring us through that time then as to, what went wrong and how you felt having experienced that first big failure, I suppose, in politics.
Yeah, look, I was 20 years old, ran for election, obviously had a huge amount of self-belief and self-confidence, and thought that I could gain a seat in an area where the party didn't have a seat, which wasn't the area I lived in. So, generally when you run for election, particularly for local election, you run the area you live in, not the one next door.
Yeah.
But look, it didn't work. I genuinely think you learn a lot more from your failures and from your successes. And like, I talked to a lot of people who set up businesses. Most of the people who have successful businesses, successful entrepreneurs, they have the T-shirt from the business that they set up that failed, and
Totally.
so it wasn't bad in that sense. And second time then I sort of knew what I was doing.
In terms of getting in and becoming Taoiseach, because you were Minister for Sport, I think you were Minister for Travel and Tourism. Was it the one? Travel, tourism and sport.
Transport, tourism and sport. Yeah,
Transport,
it was a great,
tourism
great
and
brief.
sport. And then you were...
Back when we'd no money.
Yes, yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
Young people, sometimes the government has no money. Don't let that happen again. You won't like it.
Then you were Minister for Health. Then...
Social protection.
Social protection. Yeah. And then 2 terms, obviously, as Taoiseach then, with 2 very big, like Brexit being one of the big things that you had to handle. And then second term then was COVID. Have I got that right?
No, the first term was Brexit and COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
And the second term, which is much shorter, I suppose it was Ukraine and migration and everything.
So bring us through the trajectory then of the 2 terms as Taoiseach and what you learned from the first that you brought into the second.
Yeah. Like bear in mind, it was a funny structure. So like my first term as Taoiseach, it was me as head of a minority government, and it was just Fine Gael plus some independents.
So, yeah.
And then we had the 2020 election, which was a reverse for us. We thought we were going to win it. We didn't. We lost it. But we formed a coalition with Fianna Fáil and the Greens. So I went from Taoiseach to Taoiseach to Taoiseach again. So it was a bit weird. Like, it's not that I went away and came back. I was still sitting around the cabinet table. It's just that my seat changed for 2.5 years while Micheál Martin did his first term as Taoiseach. So in my head, it's a bit different. It's 7 years as leader of the party, 7 years, in the top job. Yeah. But in different shifts, if you like. Taoiseach, Taoiseach, and then Taoiseach again.
And then Taoiseach again. So in all that time, which were the most enjoyable years in politics? Were they the early days, or was it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Like the early days, as Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport, even though we'd no money and we're cutting budgets and all the rest of it, it was the first time, real novelty value and getting to do things. Yeah. And moving up the ladder as well, which is always a more pleasant experience than trying to stay at the top of the ladder when people are trying to knock you off it. And then also, it was a great brief as well. Like I got really interested in sport, really interested in the tourism and hospitality industry, which I hadn't known that well, but got to know them really well. And, generally speaking, amazingly positive people, because you have to be in that business to succeed. And then also with transport. So, got to connect the Lewis lines, did a lot of work on trying to reconnect Ireland to the rest of the world. There were no flights to LA or San Francisco or Dubai back then. Bear in mind, I was on the first flight from Dublin to Dubai. We restored air access to California. So, it was very exciting. And you know this from your from No Frontiers and so on. Just that international connectivity is so important, and just connecting Ireland to the rest of the world was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So staying in the top job, and as you said, kind of constantly dealing with the pressure and people trying to knock you and trying to get shit over the line and get things done. Obviously there comes a time when there came a time for you when you just went, I'm out. I mean, we were all very surprised when you retired from politics, when you did and how you did. And I remember kind of watching it on the news going, oh my God, that is so sudden. And is there going to be some kind of big political fallout, a big scandal or something that we're going to hear about? We all kind of went, what? It was so surprising. But for you, it had been coming a long time, had it?
Yeah, like I'd made the decision in principle a few months earlier, really over the kind of Christmas, New Year period. And then I just had to find a window, when it was possible to go, because there's always something coming up. Yeah. Whether it was, I think it was the visit of the Chinese Prime Minister, then there was the referendums, then there was St. Patrick's Day, and then there were elections coming up, the local and European elections. So there was kind of a narrow window. If I didn't grab it then, I was probably then committing to another few months, if not another few years. So like, I know for a lot of people, it probably was a bit of a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the way I wanted to do it. I'd be very friendly with Jacinda Ardern, who's the former Prime Minister of New Zealand. She went after 6 years. I did 7. I saw a lot of people who did maybe 1 or 2 too many, like Justin Trudeau maybe stayed on for a year or 2 too many. Bertie Ahern, I think, Tony Blair. A lot of people stay on for maybe 1 or 2 more years than they should. And what she said to me, which I think really stuck in my mind, is if you're leader of a country, there's really only 3 ways you go. You die, you lose, or you resign. And if you're not going to die or lose, you're going to resign. And then it's a question as to whether it's your decision or one that's forced on you.
Yeah.
And that really stuck in my mind. And that was kind of November before the April or the March, whatever it was, that I made the decision. But no regrets,
and what
really.
led you to that decision? What were the big factors that you, like if you sat down with Matt or your mates or your family, like what were the big decisions or what were the big factors that led to that decision?
Yeah, well, like personal issues in a lot of ways. I wasn't loving it anymore. 13 years in government, it never stops. There's no. I didn't even realize how intense it was until it ended. They're really. You might be in holidays, but you're not really. You're still on the phone 3 hours a day. You can't ignore a text message from a TD and tell them I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that, or a local school principal or whatever. So so never really off, and always very conscious of the job, of your responsibilities. Keep an eye on the news, all that type of thing. So I wasn't loving it anymore.
Yeah,
and life's too short not to do a job you don't love, quite frankly.
And you know what? We were just chatting before we turned the mics on about with my 2 kids now, and I was out at the weekend and I can't stay awake after 11:30 because I did all my partying and my going out. But for you, like you gave your life to politics early, when the rest of us were kind of having fun and out till 3 a.m. or whatever, you were, because you were so young when you got into one of our youngest politicians that became Taoiseach. So you kind of dedicated your life to politics very early.
I very much would have spent my 20s, being a doctor, being a junior doctor in training, also trying to build a political career. And then my social life in my 20s really was politics. Like, almost all my friends were involved in politics or Fine Gael or whatever. And that kind of changed as I got older. A different group of friends, met my partner, Matt, and priorities change. They just do. And they do for everyone for lots of different reasons. But also as well, like it was also a political calculation. There comes a point in politics where, quite frankly, the public start getting sick of you. Now, I hadn't quite got to that point. My approval rating, I think, was about 40% at the time, which is, I think, higher than all the existing leaders at the moment, with exception perhaps of Ali Kearns. But that depends on the poll, of course. But I was getting to the point, I think, where I found my political capital was being depleted, and that people weren't necessarily listening to what I said in the way they did before, or was being received more cynically, or you might launch a new policy or a new initiative. And I was sort of like, why did you do that already? And like that happens. And you see that with, I think generally in life now, turnover of people in everything is much quicker than it used to be.
Okay.
And that's true in politics. Like there's very few people in democracies that, 5-7 years into the job, are still popular. And popularity is the currency of politics. So you can't get things done unless you have enough political support. And it was definitely getting harder to get things done, facing more resistance. And I kind of figured that maybe now would be a good time for somebody else to take on the project. I never felt I was bigger than the project. So I was kind of happy to go at that point.
From reading your book, some in Fine Gael were very supportive, others were very shocked and surprised. And do you also then harbour the pressure of, how different people in the party are going to feel about you telling them this decision? Of course you do. You have that pressure as well. And how it's going to change the party and how it's going to...
Yeah, and I guess it's not just the people in the party. There were people who would have been extremely loyal to me, would have gone into the trenches for me, taken a bullet for me, and to a certain extent you feel you're letting them down. And then there's also your own core staff. Like people talk about the civil service and the permanent government, but what they don't know about is all the politically appointed people. So a whole load of people lost their jobs the day I lost mine because their contract is linked to mine. So they'd be all your special advisors, your PA, your chief of staff. So my decision to step down makes 9 to 12 people unemployed. And they're the people who took a decision very often to step out of very secure jobs to work for you. And that's something you're kind of conscious of as well.
Listen, our hearts are working 24/7, right? So if you do ever feel that worry, maybe some unexpected chest pains, palpitations, breathlessness, you need to know that there is also expert help available 24/7 too. That's why I want to talk about Matter Private Network in Dublin. They are the only private hospital in Ireland offering urgent cardiac care all day, every day. And I'm talking weekends, bank holidays, even in the middle of the night. Now that is genuine peace of mind. This is such a unique service for anybody who is worried about their heart. And if you're not sure, just pick up the phone and call them first. You can ring 1800 24/7 999. You'll be put directly through to a cardiac specialist nurse who will talk you through your symptoms. If they need you to come in, you'll get a thorough assessment immediately. If you need treatment or a procedure the same day, they'll arrange it straight away. It's about getting swift, expert care from one of Ireland's leading hospitals. If you're worried about your heart, the number to save is 1800 24/7 999. For more information, you can log on to matterprivate.ie. Save the number and be prepared. And so when you did make that decision, did you know what you were going to do next? But had you a plan in place?
I didn't really. I knew I was still going to be a TD. That there was, the election was going to be somewhere between 6 months and a year away. So I was able to finish my term and went back to the backbenches and did my constituency work and fulfilled my mandate. And I think it's important to do that. If you run for election, you tell people you're going to do the job for 4 or 5 years, you do it. So did that, and that kind of gave me a bit of time to think and sort of explore different opportunities. Afterwards, yeah.
One of the most powerful pieces in the book that I thought was how you described yourself as a politician. So before you came out, when you did that interview with Miriam back in January 2015, I think it was.
Yep.
Because you were probably not living your true self, that it could have impacted the way that you were maybe more conservative. In the early days, you were more conservative with your views.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really interesting that you said that's quite a common theme or common thread that you would see with people who are gay, who haven't come out yet, that it's because they can't live their true self, it's almost like this sort of front that then, impacts their politics going, well, if I can deny a part of myself, why can't you as well? I just thought that was so powerful.
Yeah, look, it's a generalization as well, but there are a lot of people who I'd know who are, I'd still know a few who are closeted gay men who haven't come out or can't come out yet or aren't fully out to their family and their friends, and they aren't all very socially conservative, but a lot of them are. I think there is kind of an overlap there.
So when we were in school, did you always know you were gay? Because that was the other thing that I thought when you mentioned, because we would have been in school, so we left in 97, so it would have been the early 90s.
Did you know it?
I didn't.
No? Okay.
No, I didn't. And I always found you very attractive, honestly. And you know me, I used to go out with all the bad boys. But I just thought there was something, very, very attractive about you because you were you kept yourself to yourself. It wasn't aloof, but there was something that you kind of just didn't.
Tall, dark and mysterious.
Tall, dark and mysterious, yeah. But I never, but my gaydar has never been great, maybe. And I think in our school back then, I don't think, there was nobody really openly gay. I don't think we were in that time, were we?
And there wasn't. And bear in mind, decriminalisation happened in 93. So we were in King's Hospital in secondary school when it was still illegal. Yeah. So the idea that people would be openly gay within a few years of that, would have been very unlikely. Yeah. And that's totally changed now. So it's I'm not saying it's easy to be LGBT or anything in Ireland, but it's not like it used to be in terms of what's acceptable in school or not.
So did you know that you were gay?
I did. I did, but I didn't, I thought it might just be something that goes away or a phase or some beautiful woman would sweep me off my feet.
God.
Didn't happen. What I know going back, if you go back to did you watch Neighbours or Home and Away?
Yeah, loved it.
When you're in school, yeah. So, do you remember kind of Scott and Charlene?
Oh, I love
Scott. Kylie and Jason. Yeah, I like Scott too.
Yeah.
so going back that far.
You knew that was. Yeah.
Just further evidence that it's not something that is learned or imposed on you by some ideology. It's in your DNA, part of your biology.
And so did you ever have, I suppose this is it, when I was in school and I'm just going back and I'm thinking of it was almost like a rite of passage, all the snogs and the school disco and kissing somebody behind the hedge in the smokers field and all those things, they were so much a part of the fabric of my school experience.
Yeah.
And do you feel that you missed out on that?
Like I did kiss a few girls and things.
Okay,
but, yeah, probably did miss out on it, but I wasn't overly bothered by that.
Okay.
And in a weird way, you know, on one level, I'm sorry that I didn't have the courage to come out a lot younger, you know, particularly when I was in college maybe or whatever, when, you know, there would have been a lot of opportunities. But then maybe if I had, I wouldn't have done all the other things.
Like what? Like be so focused on politics? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then when you went to Trinity, like they had all of the gay and lesbian societies, I'm assuming, and that was all very open compared to what we had just come from, which was the kind of the very close, you know, it wasn't.
Yeah, no, which I did not join.
Did you not? No.
No, and you know, both the George and the front lounge were less than 10 minutes walk from Trinity. Would never have gone into any of them.
Just too afraid?
I don't know. I don't think it was fear.
It was. Did you still have the thing that you just didn't? You still thought that you just were going to grow out of it, or you just didn't want to? You weren't ready to accept it.
Yeah, I think it was probably more that.
You weren't ready to accept.
But it's hard. You know, it seems like so long ago. It's hard to know really.
How long was that in your head that you were going? Because we were coming into the impending the referendum, the marriage equality, for you to be in the position of power that you were in, to be that representative, and to be to come out the way you did, I thought was incredible. Was that like, how did that come about? Or like, can you talk me through the process of?
Yeah, like it was definitely. It was definitely the referendum was a trigger because, you know, we were heading into a really important vote, a really important referendum. I got to the point certainly where I would have felt pretty fake trying to advocate for a yes vote, you know, as if it didn't matter, as if it was just something for somebody else, or some other group in society. So that was definitely part of it. But again, like a bit like stepping down as Taoiseach, I was ready in my own head first. Like before you can do these things, you have to be ready in your own mind. And I at that stage, I was dating guys. You know, I was occasionally going to the George or the front lounge or whatever, 366, whatever it's called then, I can't remember. So, you know, people were starting to talk. And yeah, you know, I think it was even mentioned in one of the magazines. And you know, there would have been some journalists who would have kind of, you know, strange, you know, who had these lines about confirmed bachelor or, you know, this type of stuff. I decided not to name them, shame them in my book, but people can look up who they are if they want to. And then I kind of thought, look, this is going to come out anyway at some stage and better to control it. And I'm happy to say that now. And then secondly as well, wanted to get it done before the referendum, but not so close to the referendum that it would become about me. I didn't want it to be about me.
But proud of the fact that you had come so far, you know, that you'd been kind of denying like an incredible part of yourself for so long.
To be honest, on the day of the referendum, it was more relief.
Was it?
You know, referendums are funny things. I've done, 12 referendum campaigns, won 7, lost 5 or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. Like they're funny things and they can go either way.
Yeah.
I do remember 1994. Again, we would have been in college, or we would have been in school at the time when Ireland voted to legalise divorce by about 10,000 votes. You know, think if it had gone the other way. If in 1994 Ireland had decided we're not going to allow divorce around here, it would have been another 10, 20 years before that question would have been asked.
Yeah.
Like, never mind marriage equality. We would have been having a rerun of the divorce referendum. Yeah. So, you know, I was very conscious that these things can go the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it would have been a terrible setback.
Yeah.
Had it been defeated. And when people talk about it now, you'd swear it was 80-20. Like it wasn't. It was 62-38.
Very close.
You know, it wasn't close, but it was. You know, it was. You know, nearly 4 in 10 people voted no.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as overwhelming as we now remember it. But I think what was very reassuring for me was the scope of it. That the rural areas voted yes as well as the urban areas.
Yes.
That. You know, in America, they talk about the blue states and the red states.
Yeah.
You know, how different New York is to Alabama. Even in Brexit, you know, London and Scotland voting for Remain and England and Wales largely voting no. What was very reassuring for me is that we were a largely cohesive society.
Yeah. And
men, women, older people, younger people, rural, urban. There was a difference, but not so dramatic.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me confidence that we would be able to make other social changes down the line.
Yeah. And was it after that then that you met Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did you meet him?
4 Dame Lane.
Okay.
Was a club night, and yeah. So I was Minister for Health, and he was there with a bunch of his doctor friends, and they were sort of keen to talk to Minister for Health, which is me, and yeah, got talking to him. Was more interested in one of his friends than him at that point in time.
It's always the way.
He's a bit aloof and quiet, you know.
And like, he has been with you through thick and thin, and I mean, to have a partner like that in your life, it's the stability, I suppose, when so much shit is being thrown at you when you're in politics.
Yeah.
To have somebody to go home to close the door to must be lovely.
Yeah, and it is. And, you know, I lived alone for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think I was like 12 or 14 years living in my apartment on my own. So you get set in your own ways.
Yeah.
But you do come home to what, you make dinner for one, watch TV, get back to work. I think what's great when you have a partner, when you have a good relationship, and we do, not a perfect one, but a very good one.
Who the hell does?
Yeah, like it's somebody who is unconditionally on your side, even when you're wrong, and then also somebody who can kind of tell you you're wrong and to get over yourself and cop on, and like having that, I think is really really great. And then also kind of learning from each other. I think over time we've each become more like the other person. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And that happens as well. So what's the North Star then? What's the goal for the next 20, 30 years?
I'm not sure I necessarily have one. And, even though I don't hold any elected position anymore, I'm still interested in politics. I still care about my country, my community, the world. So, I'm still going to be involved in different issues on and off, whether it's advocating for United Ireland, whether it's access to healthcare, which is very important to me, particularly access to healthcare for women and disadvantaged groups, whether it's standing up for LGBT people around the world. I'm still going to do those things, but just not in a way that I hold a particular elected office. So these things are still going to be important, but it's just going to be in a different way.
Okay. And speaking of kind of standing up for stuff that you believe in, I mean, we have a very angry country at the moment. There's a huge, and the government now, the big issues are the housing crisis, obviously, and immigration. And, just seeing the half-raised tricolour flags and feeling and reading the news and the newspapers, and there's a palpable anger in the country. And I love this city so much. I mean, I've travelled all over the world, but I love Dublin so much. But it is a different city than it was, I feel, 10 years ago. And it was obviously a different city before that. But what's your take on as a Dubliner, what's your take on where we're at the moment?
Yeah, well look, I think the sense of anger and alienation isn't unique to Ireland. We see it all over the world, and it manifests itself in lots of different ways. And of course, what happens in America, what happens in Britain feeds into Ireland as well. Same language, same media, same social media. I think it's a real shame because I think we're enormously privileged to live in Ireland. We live in a country that has had 100 years now of absence from war, dare I say peace, notwithstanding the troubles, democracy, the rule of law, generally okay governments and rising prosperity. There are only about 6 countries in all of Europe that have that. And we take some of these things for granted. Yeah, look, housing crisis is a real problem and is creating an intergenerational divide, but, we've full employment. When we were growing up in the 80s, 20% of people were unemployed and they were the ones who didn't emigrate. And I think to a certain extent, we take for granted what we have. We should always aspire for more and better, of course, but I think the starting point always should be to be grateful for what you have. And just basic things that we have, the previous generations didn't have. And I don't know how you convince people of that, because there's a risk when you say the kind of things I'm saying now that you're accused of dismissing problems or not being empathetic or whatever. But I really think the starting point in life should be to be grateful for what you have and what's around you, and then think about how you can make things better for you and other people. Yeah. And that's not the overriding philosophy at the moment in the country, and I'm not sure why that's the case.
Yeah. And I kind of feel that, over the last couple of years, very proud of where the stance that we took on the Ukraine war, the stance that we took on Palestine and Gaza. And, as an Irish citizen, I feel immensely proud of that and speaking up about what was happening in Gaza. And yet then just the anger and the way the kind of the table feels like it's turning is against the Indian community here, against so many people who have come here to work and keep the country afloat. It's so depressing, I feel,
Yeah, look, I do too. On one level, I can understand it. The world and Ireland has changed really dramatically.
Yeah.
In the past 10 or 20 years, whether it's the role of women, whether it's the fact that we're a much more multicultural, multiracial society than when we were before, the demise of traditional things like religion. So in a relatively short period of time, the world has changed.
Yeah.
And for some people, they find that difficult, quite frankly. One of the things that we now talk about in Ireland is the pace of immigration. I think immigration is a good thing for Ireland. We wouldn't be able to run our public services or our economy without it.
Absolutely.
But maybe it happened too quickly. No, it's not like a hot and cold tap that you can turn on and turn off. And some people think that that migration's like this hot and cold tap, and you can regulate the volume and regulate the composition. You can't. It's much more complicated than that. But maybe we do need a period of consolidation. A period when change isn't happening so quickly, and the country's a chance to catch up in terms of infrastructure and so on. So I can understand a lot of the worries that people have, about culture and cultural norms changing. But at the same time, I think there are other people who want to turn the clock back to an imaginary 1980s when everything was wonderful. And
yes,
I guarantee you it wasn't. In the 1980s, you could rape your wife, you could beat your kids, and you could force your pregnant wife to go through the pregnancy. Anyone thinks the 80s or the 50s or the 30s was somehow this wonderful era. They used to get their head examined. So I don't have much time for them. But I do understand people who maybe think, we've just had so much social and economic change in such a short period of time that maybe we need a little bit of time for things to slow down.
And to process and to just to figure out where we're at. Met you, I think it was the Gladiator premiere, maybe it wasn't, but you came up to me, you were with Matt, and you came up to me and you were like, oh my God, I've been asked to do this new TV show. It is with Ray Goggins, where you go off somewhere around the world with him, and you were like, do you think I should do it? And I was like, 100% yes. And you were like, it's kind of exciting to be able to show myself in a different light. And I was like, that's exactly what you do it. Go for it. And then when I saw you on it, I just thought it was so brilliant. What was your experience of it? You were pitched, so the format for people who haven't seen it, two celebrities pitched up together, and you go off different places around the world with Ray Goggins. You were hitched up together with Lyra, the most unlikely couple in the world.
I think that was the idea, but yeah.
Well, what was it like?
It was great.
You went up to South Africa?
Yeah, the Drakensberg Mountains in South Africa. February in South Africa, I thought summer down there, it's going to be lovely. It wasn't. It's a whole different climate when you're that high up.
Rain for the entire day.
It was rough. It was rough. We won 2 really nice days, and when we got above the clouds, the rain stopped, obviously. But I'm really glad I did it. It was tough. I'm not sure I really realized what I signed up for, because, I thought it was going to be something like a difficult hike or a Camino, and there'd be lots of conversation and so on. But it was tough. It was mountains, it was ropes, it was harnesses, it was very much at the edge of what I was able to do physically. But it was great to be there with Lyra. She was like so much fun, such a positive person. The person you see on the screen is the real person. She's just like that in the cave at 2 a.m. Yeah. And she kind of gave me a lot of courage and a lot of strength. There's no way I wasn't going up that mountain if a woman from Cork who's probably 3/4 of my height was going up, but there's no way I wasn't.
Because you didn't really know that you had a fear of heights, and then it became quite apparent that you did, and you really struggled.
Yeah, I don't think of a terrible fear of heights. I'm not afraid of being high up in a tall building or something, but it is very different when you could actually fall down the rock face. But I managed to do it. I'm really glad that I did. And it was great to work with a camera crew as well in a different way, because they were there with us all the time, and they were extremely impressive. So we were on horseback for part of it. And, at one point, one of the guys was on horseback beside me, holding the camera, and another person was holding the reins of the horse on a different horse. I just thought these people are serious professionals, and they kind of were great to work with too. So,
What did you learn about yourself on that trip, or did you?
I definitely learned to cope with rain and bad weather. better than I did before. And thank you to Regatta for the gear; it was great. because I don't really go out in the rain.
Okay.
Or I tried to avoid going out in the rain.
And were you actually sleeping in the caves and all that? Or were you taken to a 5-star hotel afterwards when the camera stopped rolling?
No, we had a nice hotel to start and the end, but when we were out there were no hotels, obviously, because we were up the mountains.
Yeah.
And so I think we had 2 nights in a tent and 2 nights in caves. The caves were actually nice. I was really surprised by how dry and comfortable they are. And no technology, which was really great too. So it seemed like a more primordial way of living.
Yeah.
You watch the sun go down, you light your fire, you eat your food, which you cook yourself over the fire.
Yeah.
And then, what do you do after that? There's nothing to do but watch the stars, tell stories.
And listen to Lyra.
Yeah, go to sleep, yeah. And then you wake up in the morning with sunrise. It seemed like a very kind of natural way of living, which I liked more than I thought I would.
Okay. And how did you get on? Because, people would have commented in the past that you're comfortable with your small circle of friends, with Matt, your family, that you can be kind of socially awkward, compared to Lyra, who'll just bundle in and talk to everybody. But how was that experience for you, being with new people in a very intense situation, very much out of your environment? Did you enjoy it, or is that something that you still feel you have to work on?
Yeah, it is, because I'm naturally reserved, a little bit introverted. Some of my best friends say to me, it just takes you a while to warm up to people, and it did. It took a day or two to warm up to Ray and Lyra and the crew, and Lyra obviously made it a lot easier. But we did get on very well, and we're still in touch.
I have a little message.
Was delighted to see her. I don't know if you saw her at the American football match, seeing everyone being like that was
unbelievable.
That was amazing.
She was unbelievable. She had a little message for you.
Hi Leo, aka Sugar Daddy. It's Mountain Barbie here, and I want to ask you a quick question. If we were to go back into the wilderness tomorrow, what is one thing you would pack that you didn't pack last time? And no, it can't be sweets.
We had loads of sweets.
I'm assuming that's why she was calling you Sugar Daddy.
Yes. Yeah. I always
You're fond of a jelly.
I had a supply of sweets and a bit of whiskey as well. I probably would have packed a small trowel.
Packed a small trowel?
Yeah, because you have to bury your own poo. No, I didn't really have one.
That would have been handy.
That would have been handy.
There you go. Perfect.
Not the kind of thing you think about packing.
You'll know for the next time. But it was a great...
We don't want a big one. We had this kind of huge shovel that would kind of passed around. But I think if you had your own kind of small trowel, it would have come in handy.
That would have been the thing. Not what I thought you were going to say.
Plenty of baby wipes. And all the rest of it.
Would you do something like that again?
I would, yeah. No, I did enjoy it. I would definitely do it either somewhere sunny and warm.
Yeah.
Or maybe like the Arctic or something like that. No, I would, yeah. And it was a lot of fun.
Brilliant. You're heading along to the presidential inauguration tomorrow.
That's right.
Have you picked out your suit?
No, but I have a few. So one of them will come out of the wardrobe tomorrow.
What will that be like? Just what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be different. So it's my third time going.
Yeah.
But first time was as a cabinet minister. Second time was as Taoiseach, and now I'm going as a former Taoiseach and a member of the Council of State. So I'm kind of hoping I can just sort of sit back and watch it and enjoy it. Like one thing I found really strange but also interesting after I stepped down as Taoiseach was to I finished up in the Dáil and I was watching the day when Micheál Martin became Taoiseach for the second time, and I was watching it all at home on my couch, and I'd never done that before because I'd always been there. For 20 years I'd been there in the Dáil. So it's going to be interesting now to be there but not be part of the ceremony, if that makes any sense. I
get you. Yeah.
So the inauguration will happen in the morning. That's in Dublin Castle. President Connolly's invited me to lunch in the Irish that afternoon, which I don't think I was at in the previous 2 years, so I'm not sure why that was. Maybe I had to go back to work or something. And then there's the reception then in the evening, which last year Lisa Hannigan, Jamie's sister, was one of the singers. So I'm not sure who it's going to be.
Wow. And
looking forward to it.
What did you make of the presidential campaign? Everybody said it was lackluster and that it was kind of, and people just couldn't wait for it to be over. Like, what did you make of it?
Yeah, well, look, it wasn't the presidential election anyone expected.
Yeah.
Our original candidate was Mary Guinness, who had to step away for health reasons. Then the Fianna Fáil candidate pulled out. Sinn Féin didn't have a candidate. So it wasn't the election anyone anticipated. That's why it was a bit weird, and that's really why there was a lack of choice, not because anyone plotted or schemed to stop it. People would have always thought there were going to be at least 4 candidates. In fairness to Kathryn Connolly, President Connolly, she put her hand up early. She said she wanted to be the candidate of the left before any party supported her, and then one by one they came on board and supported her. So she showed a lot of initiative there, and I really wish her the best with her presidency. I remember being elected to the cabinet a few times, being elected Taoiseach twice, and I was struck by the amount of people who were kind of mean-spirited on day one, and were kind of wishing you ill. And I promised I'd never be that kind of person. So I wish her the best. She deserves a fair wind, and hopefully she'll be a good president.
And what did you make of the whole Jim Gavin saga?
Look, I felt sorry for Jim. Like, I know Jim, knew him through GA and Dublin football, and I'm a Dub, and look at the amount of success and victories he brought us. And then I also knew him because when I was Transport Minister, he was working in the Irish Aviation Authority. So I knew him pretty well, and feel sorry that it ended the way it did. Politics is a tough gig. Do go for it, but don't go for it unless you really know what you're getting into.
It's so cutthroat. I mean,
it's a blood sport. That's the truth, and you have to be ready for that. But also, the presidency is the highest office in the state. It's not a coincidence that when it comes to the vote on the final day, that people end up voting for people who have run for election before, or who have served in government, because it is a skill, it is an art form, it is something you need to know and you need to learn. There are a lot of people in life who will be kind and complimentary, and if you think of all the people whose names were mentioned, there's twice as many more you haven't heard about. And there's a lot of people who, people will say to them, "Oh, I think you'd make a great president," and they let that go to their head, and they don't really think about what they're getting involved in.
Well, yeah.
I
just don't remember.
I'd say run for the council first and see if you like being a candidate, and after that, Never mind whether you even get elected or not. Just the experience of being a candidate probably isn't something you should do for the first time running for the highest office in the state.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so cutthroat, and just even when you're talking about it, they're calling it a blood sport. I mean, when you look at women in politics, like there's great women who are in politics now, like lots of your Fine Gael colleagues. Fianna Fáil as well, lots of brilliant women, Sinn Féin, but is that why there's not more women in politics? Because it's so cutthroat and the pressure is massive. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse than getting into politics. I just couldn't.
Yeah,
I mean, the media is one thing, but politics is another.
Women are well capable of being cutthroat. I can guarantee you that.
Do you want to name your top cutthroat women? No.
There's nothing weak or meek about the women who are in politics. They're well capable of.
But for those that go for it, you have to have balls like a Bengali tiger, right?
You got to have a tough skin.
Yeah,
that's the truth of it. You do, but that doesn't mean that you can't have empathy. It doesn't mean you can't be kind. And it's possible to combine those things, and I think we all try to.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, your quick fire round. Favorite hotel in Ireland?
Ashford Castle.
Oh, nice.
Nowhere like it.
Shower or bath?
Shower. I'm 6'3". I can barely fit in baths. Except a really big one, Ashford Castle, maybe.
That's why you love Ashford. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner. I'm Mediterranean sensibility, so dinner late.
Did you get a bit of stick online recently for your very average looking dinners that you post?
Oh, that was just me cooking. That was me cooking something in the air fryer.
I read that in the headline somewhere. Some journalist that started giving you stick over your dinner that you were posting. It's like, piss off.
No, that was fine. I don't take pictures of my fancy dinners.
Okay.
Just the ones I cook myself.
Just your boring ones at home. Dinner or dancing?
Oh, definitely dinner. I'm a terrible dancer.
Okay.
Takes a lot to get me going.
Okay. Death row meal.
Ooh, chicken wings, buffalo, blue
Nice.
cheese sauce.
Oh, nothing better. Where are the best chicken wings in Dublin?
Between Elfin and Castle and Canal Bank Cafe.
Canal Bank Cafe. Oh, I love them. Kylie or Cher?
Cher.
What? What?
Yes.
Sorry. Like when Kylie was here, you gave her you reached out to her personally to say that you were going to welcome her to Dublin.
I know, I met Cher too. We didn't hear about it.
Oh, go on.
We managed to keep that one private.
You and Cher met.
Indeed. Yeah, she actually asked to meet me, so I was totally stoked by that. And she wanted to speak to me about the environment and about LNG. People might know that she's actually quite a political person.
I did not know that.
Remember Sonny and Cher?
Yeah.
Sonny Bono was a congressman. So even going back then, she was very clued into politics and is an environmental activist and campaigner. So she asked to meet me and wanted to speak to me about that. And that was just before our concert in Dublin. So that was great.
Wow. Where did you meet her? In her hotel?
No, in the concert venue beforehand, yeah. But there were no photographs, so nobody posted.
Okay. And so, you know,
I learned from the Kylie experience, but I do love Kylie as well.
But I thought that was really shitty. And actually, I thought you explained it very well in the book that you got stick for that reaching out to Kylie. But you made the point that if that was Bruce Springsteen or it was Micheál Martin looking to, you know,
and there's one. I remember one review of my book, and it was done by a journalist. He kind of said that I was sort of engaging a bit of self-pity, and you know, Enda got beaten up for the Bruce Springsteen concert. If you actually Google Enda and Bruce Springsteen, you'll see the difference in the way that was reported compared to me and Kylie. But I have to say, I do love them both. They're both divas. They're also among the very small number of people who've managed to have number ones in 5 decades. Imagine that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Both of those ladies.
Yes. Yeah.
That is so
Which
impressive.
is extraordinary.
Oh my God. And I know you like your music. You love the Eurovision as well. You're a big Eurovision fan?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Who
doesn't? Who doesn't? What makes you laugh?
Comedy.
That's fair
Jokes.
enough. That's fair enough. Who's your favourite comedian?
Oh.
I'm a Michael McIntyre girl.
Yeah.
I love Michael McIntyre. And I know he's very Marmite. But
I saw Deirdre Kane recently. She was great.
Oh, she's ace.
I really like. Is William Seabag Montefiore? No, do you know him?
I don't know him.
Yeah,
I
I may have got his name wrong, but there's a Simon Seabag Montefiore. I don't mean him. It's your man William.
William?
I think it's his brother. He does really good videos and things.
What about? Are you a Joanne McNally fan?
Yeah,
I love her. Yeah. I saw her recently and absolutely died laughing.
I've never actually seen her show, but I know from the podcast, obviously.
Yeah, her show is brilliant.
She has invited me and I haven't gone yet, so I have to make sure that happens.
Do jump on it. And what makes you cry?
Yeah, I'm not a crier, so I'm not a very emotional person, but sometimes kind of sappy movies.
Okay.
Especially after a glass of wine or two.
Which one?
So
Marley and Me?
Do you know? You know the first one. It was like the best original Marigold Hotel. You know that one?
Oh,
and
what a movie! The
scene at the end where the guy meets his former gay lover and dies afterwards.
Yeah,
that was tough to watch. And then I love Crazy Rich Asians. So the scene at the end on the plane. Where he proposes to her.
Yes, yeah.
So I mean, that sort of stuff.
Oh,
if it actually happened in real life, I'd probably be making retching signals or something. But in the movies, it's fun.
But I think that's why when you were announcing your retirement and you almost went on the steps of the Dáil, like you could hear the emotion in your voice. And for somebody who's not a crier, how was that for you?
That was a bit weird, a bit difficult because because I don't like to lose my composure in public.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have a few times, because when you don't, then sometimes people think you're cold, and I'm not cold. I'm just reserved. And actually, part of that is the medical training as well, because you have to deal with really tough situations.
Of course.
And stay calm and stay collected, and talk to the family. So part of the medical training actually teaches you to compartmentalize and stay calm under pressure.
And same in politics.
Yeah. Although in politics now there's a lot of performative empathy, which I find I understand why it's necessary, but sometimes I find it a bit fake. People who you'll see, and you can learn it too. People who you'll see with a planned pause, bite their lip, tearing up a bit, the tremble in the voice, and you see them 10, 20 minutes later, and they didn't really mean it.
Okay.
And I'm just a bit skeptical and cynical around performative empathy, but I understand why sometimes it's important.
Okay. God, I'm going to be looking out for that all the time now. Listen, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming in. It's been great to
fun. Thank you.
Catch up. And best of luck with everything that you do going forward.
Thank you. And you too.
Listen, our hearts are working 24/7, right? So if you do ever feel that worry, maybe some unexpected chest pains, palpitations, breathlessness, you need to know that there is also expert help available 24/7 too. That's why I want to talk about Matter Private Network in Dublin. They are the only private hospital in Ireland offering urgent cardiac care all day, every day. And I'm talking weekends, bank holidays, even in the middle of the night. Now that is genuine peace of mind. This is such a unique service for anybody who is worried about their heart. And if you're not sure, just pick up the phone and call them first. You can ring 1800 24/7 999. You'll be put directly through to a cardiac specialist nurse who will talk you through your symptoms. If they need you to come in, you'll get a thorough assessment immediately. If you need treatment or a procedure the same day, they'll arrange it straight away. It's about getting swift, expert care from one of Ireland's leading hospitals. If you're worried about your heart, the number to save is 1800 24/7 999. For more information, you can log on to matterprivate.ie. Save the number and be prepared. You've been listening to Are We There Yet? Hosted by me, Kathryn Thomas. Visual design and video edit by Stephen King O'Farrell and Connor Daly. Music courtesy of Audio Network. Series producer Paul McGregor and executive producer Sasha Hamrogue. New episodes of Are We There Yet? Are released every Tuesday morning wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also watch this episode along on YouTube. Are We There Yet? With Kathryn Thomas is an Onyx original.